Well, that was a lot of fun. I found I was quite torn in the build-up to the UFC 271 co-main event between Derrick Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, and honestly, I thought it was some pretty crazy matchmaking from the UFC, forcing that Houston crowd to choose between their own hometown hero in Lewis and seeing a show-stopping Shooey post-fight. In an ideal world, that choice would never have been forced upon us all, but in fairness to the UFC, the matchup did prove to be a lot of fun, even if the two guys are both amongst the most widely adored fighters in the sport. And while it lasted, it was pretty wild, as these two hard-hitting heavyweights went to war. Two guys who likely make up a pair of spots within the 5 hardest punchers in the UFC right now. And you could feel a certain level of tension in the air as they threw bombs, fully aware that just one would be enough to drastically impact the direction of the fight. Obviously, both men had their moments, and each man seemed pretty prepared to go out in a blaze of glory if that's what it took. I have seen a few people putting out this theory that Lewis took the elbow to the face and then proceeded to take a dive, citing the way he fell to the floor and how odd it looked or whatever. Seriously lads, go have a lie down. Just go have a lie down. I'm not going to engage with that anymore. The finishing shot was an absolute beauty, and though he is indeed known for having excellent power in his hands, those elbows have always been an underrated component of Tuivasa's offense over the years. And when he cracked his elbow off Lewis's head in the second round, he knew in that moment that there was no need for a follow-up shot. So yeah, the Houston crowd were once again deprived of their local hero having a big moment. But all in all, both of these guys came out of this one with their reputations in a good spot. And for Tuivasa, whose star is growing more and more with each passing finish, all of a sudden we're not really looking at him anymore as a mid-tier brawler, one who doesn't seem to have elite potential. Because if you look back to late 2018 and the entirety of 2019, Tai was more or less seen by us as the Mark Hunt protege who ran into several walls when attempting to build on his mentor's great success. Coming back from 3 losses in a row is a truly difficult task, no matter what level you're fighting at. So when the first wake-up call that saw him finish by Junior Dos Santos led to a defeat to Blagoy Ivanov and then a submission at the hands of Sergey Spivak, those who held out hope for Tuivasa's potential had every reason to move on and look at new options. But at the time, Tuivasa was 25 or 26, barely getting into his mid-shelf life as a heavyweight. I mean, look, these big boys, they don't age like flyweights. And for the best of them, hitting your prime usually happens in your early to mid 30s, sometimes even later. And I do remember thinking this to some extent as it related to Tai Tuivasa, but there's something about going 0-3 that really causes one to tune out a bit as a fan, to dampen the levels of expectation or excitement that would have been brewing otherwise. But from 2020 onwards, after a year out, Tuivasa started to show up, started to show improvement, displaying a skill set in moments that caused him in many ways to shed the label that many people had attached to him. Yes, with a gun to my head, I would still call him a brawler at his core, and it does seem a little rich to try and claim that he's not, after a fight like the one he just had with the Black Beast. But with each passing outing, we're starting to see him become a better fighter, a more methodically chaotic and crafty customer. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content and would like to stay up to date with all of our weekly uploads, be sure to subscribe to the channel now to do your part in ensuring that once we do eventually hit 1 million subs, you'll get the chance to see yours truly do 10 consecutive Shooeys in a row. Also, we recently set up a Patreon, so if you want to support the channel, the link is in the description. For me, it was Tai Tuivasa's second last win over Augusto Sakai that really made me accept that I had perhaps underestimated his potential. Again, even now, the guy is only 28 years old, which makes him one of the younger elite heavyweights in the UFC. And I do think that looking forward, given that he has fought 4 times in the last 12 months, I would like to see him take a bit of time off. Time off that would allow him to let the weight of his accomplishments sink in, work on the skills that need work, spend some time drinking beer from a glass instead of a shoe. And I'd also like to see him use some time to round out some of his edges before he makes one almighty push, because as things stand, there is no doubt in my mind that he is 1 win away from a title shot. And whether his next opponent is maybe the winner of Curtis Blades versus Chris Daukaus, or Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall, hell, maybe it's Cyril Gane or Stipe Miocic, the point I'm trying to make is that Tai Tuivasa's star power is in an excellent spot. He just pulled off the biggest win of his career to achieve by far and away the highest ranking of his career. And he did this on the back of a 12-month campaign that saw him force the entire MMA world to shift their perception of him and his ceiling as a heavyweight contender, and also accept him as a real potential star for the company. So with a lot of top 10 heavyweight matchups coming up in the next few weeks and months, I would implore Tai Tuivasa to sit back for a bit and see how it plays out. Because look, there is an almighty jump in skill ahead of him. If he does in fact end up in there with a Gan, with a Miocic, or even Aspinall or Blades. And I do have high hopes for this guy, and I'd like to see him do well, because if I could put my analytical hat to one side and give a nod to the shoe on my foot, the whole beer drinking thing is right up my street. And as much as I was shouting at the television like a madman last Saturday for both men as they had big moments, in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I knew fully well that the spectacle, the stage, needed a Shooey. So can Tai Tuivasa find his way to an even greater level within the heavyweight ranks? Who knows? But it is very clear to me now that this division is really starting to blossom and come alive in a way that it hasn't done in years. And considering the historical prestige of the heavyweight division, it's about time. But what did you make of Tai Tuivasa's top 5 breakthrough victory? And what comes next? Is it a shot at the belt or another top contender? Do let us know your opinions in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Patreon link is in the description. Thank you for watching.